A typical Negro. We publish herewith 3 portraits from photographs by McPherson and Oliver of the Negro Gordon, who escaped from his master in Mississippi and came into our lines at Baton Rouge in March last. One of these portraits represents the man as he entered our lines with clothes torn and covered with mud and dirt from his long race through the swamps and bayous, chased as he had been for days and nights by his master with several neighbors and a pack of bloodhounds. Another portrait shows him as he underwent the surgical examination previous to being mustered into the service, his back furrowed and scarred with the traces of a whipping administered on Christmas Day last. And the third photo represents him in United States uniform, bearing the musket and prepared for duty. This Negro displayed unusual intelligence and energy. In order to foil the scent of the bloodhounds who were chasing him, he took from his plantation onions, which he carried in his pockets. After crossing each creek or swamp, he rubbed his body freely with these onions, and thus, no doubt, frequently threw the dogs off the scent. At one time in Louisiana, he served our troops as guide, and on one expedition was unfortunately taken prisoner by the rebels, who, infuriated beyond measure, tied him up and beat him, leaving him for dead. He came to life, however, and once more made his escape to our lines. By way of illustrating the degree of brutality which slavery has developed among the whites in this section of country from which this Negro came, we append the following extract from a letter in the New York Times, recounting what was told by the refugees from Mrs. Gillespie's estate on the Black River. The treatment of the slaves, they say, has been growing worse and worse for the last 6 or 7 years. Flogging with a leather strap on the naked body is common. Also, paddling the body with a handsaw until the skin is a mass of blisters, and then breaking the blisters with the teeth of the saw. They have very often seen slaves stretched out upon the ground with hands and feet held down by fellow slaves, or lashed to stakes driven into the ground for burning. Handfuls of dry corn husk are then lighted, and the burning embers are whipped off with a stick so as to fall in showers of live sparks upon the naked back. This is continued until the victim is covered with blisters. If in his writhings of torture the slave gets his hands free to brush off the fire, the burning brand is applied to them. Another method of punishment which is inflicted for the higher order of crimes, such as running away or other refractory conduct, is to dig a hole in the ground large enough for the slave to squat or lie down in. The victim is then stripped naked and placed in the hole, and a covering or grating of green sticks is laid over the opening. Upon this, a quick fire is built, and the live embers sifted through upon the naked flesh of the slave until his body is blistered and swollen almost to bursting. With just enough life to enable him to crawl, the slave is then allowed to recover from his wounds, if he can, or to end his sufferings by death. Thank you for tuning in to today's edition of Black History, the Black Book, narrated by DeeWorks Spencer. Let's go, y'all.